Hopefully I can be informative. So I'm gonna start with just basic figure for now. You always want to start off with something that's a pretty strong pose if you're trying to do character work. And I found this image. I'm trying to keep it real simple just for the sake of learning. So I'm going to start off with just a standing pose. Nothing too complicated, nothing that involves holding a weapon, just simple lady standing there looking kind of sassy. And what we're going to do is start the sketch with just the line of movement. So I'm gonna go with this pose right here. So the line of movement, she kind of has her back turned a little, tilted up. So I'm gonna try to capture that with just a stroke. And then we're gonna want to start plotting out different shapes of her body. We're gonna try to break down each piece of her torso into shapes. So for instance, the head is just gonna be a sphere. The torso, the upper torso, I always like to break it down into a bean shape. Kind of like a lima bean. Trying to make sure we keep the tilt of her body in mind. Then we're going to do the lower half of her torso, which is going to be more of an oval shape. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat and I'll go over what I'm talking about, go over again and again. So now we have the head, torso, and we're going to move on to the arms. So we start with the shoulder, which is just another sphere. So you're trying to break down each portion of the body into really simplistic shapes. So arms, we're going to make those rectangles. And we're going to sit her hand right there on her hip as another little rectangle. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining my stream today. Thank you for following Sammy Mayhem. I appreciate it. Alright, now we're going to start breaking down her lower body. So we're going to try to get her first leg, the leg where all her weight on her body is sitting. So that's going to be the leg that's going straight down. And the thing you want to keep in mind is on most humans, the length of the leg is going to be about the length of the head plus the waist. Hope that makes sense. So ideally with human proportions, you're going to break it down to a head, and you're going to say, oh, one person is going to be about 5 heads tall. Five to 8 is typically what most people are going to be. 8 is ideal. 8 is like, oh, supermodel height. So that's how tall we're going to make this figure we're drawing.
Who will be the master and who will be the slaves in a future dominated by super-intelligent machines?
And again, we're going to break down each portion of her leg into a really simple primitive. So the top of her thigh is going to be a sphere, not a sphere, a cylinder. Her knee is going to be a sphere. And then the bottom of her calf is going to be another cylinder. Same thing with the second leg. We're going to add the back leg in here, except she's pointed this out. Sphere for the knee. Cylinder for the upper portion of the leg. I mean, essentially you're drawing what looks kind of like a doll right now. And then when we put the skin over it, it's going to look more like a person. And this is the process I use for pretty much every character that I draw. Whether or not it's a very stylized character, or if it's a really realistic figure. So feet are kind of a more difficult beast. Feet you're going to want to break down into 3 separate parts. You're going to have the heel portion, which is a triangle. You're going to have the middle portion, which is a rectangle. And then you're going to have the toes, which I like to break down into 2 separate rectangles. So when we're trying to draw the feet on the figure, I'm going to try and break it down here. Do we zoom in a bit? And if anyone has any questions about what I'm doing, again, feel free to just post them in the chat. I will do my best to explain. This is my first time teaching live. You guys are all my first. Alright, so now we have our basic form, we have our basic pose. We're going to start adding to it to fully flesh out the figure. So we're going to try to start again from the head and work our way down. And I will do a separate stream where I'm gonna go more in depth about how you do the face on a person, because the face is a whole nother beast entirely. Right now we're trying to focus on just drawing the entire figure. Alright, so because it's a female figure, we're going to start adding the breasts, which are going to protrude more from the chest than it would on a male. And breasts are not spherical. Don't ever draw them spherical. They're going to be more of a teardrop shape. And we're kind of just making sure that we're adding to the structure that's already there. Or else it's going to look awkward. It's going to look like she's completely lopsided as she stands in profile. And really what we're doing is we're connecting the lines through all these different primitive shapes that we drew for her figure. I'm essentially putting skin over her skeleton. This is why it's really important to practice anatomy sketches if you really want to draw even anime or character work, because you have to know where all of these muscles go on a human form before you can sit there and stylize them in an anime character or in a cartoon character or anything that you want to draw. Now we kind of have our nude figure going on. Now you kind of have the basic shape of a body with a very similar pose as the reference that we're going from. And now you're going to start wanting to add clothes to it so that it looks like a fully fleshed out character. So I'm going to create a new layer. Call this line so I don't get confused. And then I go ahead and I take my sketch layer and I'm going to drop the opacity on it. So I'm now I'm going to trace over that figure just so it becomes a little cleaner.